Hello everybody and welcome to another Battletech stream. The silly one is back and we are going to continue our journey through the meta. Last time we looked at the Mechwarrior expansion and all the things that brought, and it did bring a lot of things. Pilots, Solaris pilots for free, C3 decks, terrains, dashing wolf decks to kind of counter the meta. Although, you know, you heard my comment last time about that. It probably should have been the other way around with mercenaries and Mechwarrior. Maybe the meta would have changed a bit. And the aftermath is what we are going to look at today. The slight problem I have with this is that Wizards of the Coast were chucking things out left, right and centre. You had mercenaries in November, you had Mechwarrior in February, March time, and then they slapped Arsenal out again pretty quick before Worlds. So when you look at not Vault Magazine, Duelist Magazine, which came out every 3 months, one of the reasons that Mechwarrior didn't really get any advertising, and then boom, there's the article, it's out, was it kind of skipped in between, and the releases went in between the issues and whatever else, and therefore my supporting evidence for this and what happened after Mechwarrior is purely down on the paper. And I have to reserve, you know, there aren't duelist articles. There are a couple in Vault Magazine which you can't get anymore, etc., etc. It's a bit of a shame, and it's not been archived or anything else like that. So we're going to look at the outcome, or how Mechwarrior affected the meta. And because everything's on paper and I haven't scanned it and everything else, I am going to recreate these decks. Now, these are basically decks created by Dennis Brooks. Where are we? Which webcam am I on? Dennis Brooks. There it is. You can see it at the top there. And if you look back in the past, some of the early streams I did, there was his 10th place deck. Highly commended for innovative strategy, whatever else you want to call it, from the first Worlds. And he, Dennis Brooks, who Fenris Fan won and went by the moniker of Phelan, wrote a number of articles for Vault Magazine. And this is one of them. And we've included some of them in the Mercenaries thing. And he's quite famous for having basically played every faction and won a tournament with every faction. Again, how often he got to play in tournaments and the quality of the player base in those tournaments, I obviously cannot make comments on. But so this is where we are. All right, let me put that there. So one of his articles, Beginner's Guide to Deck Building, which kind of takes you through some of the assembly logistics and the other stuff, and the 24-12-24 rule, which had been in place way before he wrote the articles, are kind of demonstrated here. And when I get around to it, I will scan and put these articles in. But I'm going to recreate the decks and comment on them. So we are going to start with support assembly, and crazily enough, there are 12 assemblies in this deck. And then when we look at tactics, there are 8 tactics. And then after that, we have the wonderful Solaris contracts. And because war funds didn't exist at this point, war funds came out in Arsenal, in order to get some level of reliability, 4 war funds. Sorry, 4 Solaris contracts. That gave you a reasonable chance of drawing a Solaris. Okay? I'm not quite convinced with 12 assembly. I think you could probably drop that to 10 and run a couple of black markets in there. You know, the wonderful black market connections. But there we go. So, the unit base, the wonderful dasher stopping mongoose. 6 of those. And at this point, Commander's Edition hadn't happened. These were not allied to the Comstar. They were sat there in the Inner Sphere. They were the Inner Sphere fast mech of choice. By a long way. After that, the 2-cost, undercosted, broken, moderate Night Sky. The Davian Wolfhound for 3-cost, 6 of those. And the Zeus. And the Zeus we are talking about here is the 9S, the Davian Steiner one, for 3A, which is a 273 overheat plus 2/2. Not the Steiner, no buyout, 273 1+1 version. This is a Davian deck. And there we have 48 cards straight off. So, what are our other 12 cards? Well, given that Solaris is in there, you can basically say we're going to add Prince Vic, we're going to add Kai Champ, okie dokie, and because we can stick him out every turn, we're going to add Morgan Cal in there, and we can use him with Solaris contacts each turn and not pay the 4 cost and get a free hit on the stockpile. And then to supplement those, given these units, you add 4 redline pilots. And the reason for this is when you look at it, the Night Sky overheats, so that takes a Night Sky damage from 2 to 3, 4, 5 with a redline pilot on it. When you look at the Wolfhound, this 3 goes to a 4, 5 and 6 with a redline pilot on it. And then this is the real kicker. This Zeus goes to a 3 plus 2 plus another 2. It goes to a 7 damage Zeus. So that's good. The other thing to note is the Wolfhound doing 6 actually is quite good because that kills a Phantom. And if you've got a Mongoose and a Night Sky together, that will do 6. Or even 7 to kill a Fenris or a Phantom. So the combinations aren't quite perfect, but with the right combinations, you can put your opponent under a lot of pressure. The missions, don't forget that if you've got Kai in there, everything takes 2 as well. He plays 2 overruns. He plays to keep Kai alive, or the pilot alive, or Victor, for example, 2 taking the hits. And just in case you chump block, 1 Forge Mission Order. There's the deck. And sideboard wise, even with no think tanks in there, 3 creative terraformings, the defensive heavy fog, couple of those. And for decks that recycle or have certain uniques, 3 Arrow 4 batteries. I'm not quite convinced with the sideboard personally. I think 2 Arrow 4 batteries is more than enough. I think I would go 2 Arrow 4 and 3 Heavy Fog for Hunters. But, you know, the meta stayed like this for 3 months before it changed. And boy, did it change when Arsenal came out. And I also think that you could tweak some of these easily. You could easily drop a couple of assemblies for a black market. You might even squeeze a think tank in there. The units are incredibly generic. The Mongoose has an A buyout. The Zeus has an A buyout. The Night Sky has nothing. The Wolfhound has nothing. So you're not actually that reliant on resources. There are enough there at 20 base resource to be able to put 2 out a turn, or 2 early on and get a Night Sky out or a Wolfhound. You're not reliant necessarily on assembly for Mongoose on the first turn. So you know, it's let's call it. It's 98. It's Mechwarrior. It's let's call it Phelan and 01 pilot deck or something like that. There we go. That's me saving it so I can come back and talk about it later. And that's the deck he used in his beginner's guide to emphasise the 24-12-24 rule, why he included certain things, and various other bits and bobs. As I said, one of these days I will get around and scanning it and putting that out there for you guys to have a look at. I'm pretty sure I did the Wolf deck with Mercenaries Did I do those? Phelan Wolf, Jenna Phantom. Yes, I did. So we did the Jade Falcon, and we did Ghost Bear, if I remember rightly, as well. Where are we? Phelan, Ghost Bear, Smoke Jag, Jade Falcon, Wolf. So I've done Steiner, Lau, and Marek as well. So on the list we have a variation of this deck which pops up later. So I'll do this while I'm here, and this is quite interesting because obviously it's had a bit of testing. Come on, stay there. So in this version, and let me just, can I put V2 at the end there and save that? He drops a Solaris. He plays Mongoose, Night Sky, Wolfhound, Zeus. Fine. Okay. 2 overrun, 2 taking the hit, and the Forged Mission Orders. He adds, and this is quite interesting. Does this even add up? We've only dropped 1 Solaris. Oh, he drops the Redline Pilots. So he drops the 4 Redline Pilots and adds the other Kai, which makes sense. I mean, it's too good a pilot. Remember, he's unique, so you can only have 1 on the table, so your opponent can't play it. So having 2 gives you a better chance of getting your own out. And secondly, this guy's still good. +3/+3. Look at the top card. If it's a mission, get it for free. Restock it otherwise. It's still pretty gross, pretty snotty. In fact, this card was that good that people would play it before Solaris contracts. You know, you saw them in the First Worlds, Ralph Anderson's deck, Mike Fitzgerald's deck. They had Kai in without Solaris. So he's worth 5, regardless. If you can get it for free, God, it's like your best day at the office, isn't it? He adds Alex Mallory. An interesting choice because he's got politics on there. So he's paying 6 for Alex Mallory. Look an opponent's hand and choose a card. The opponent restocks that card and draws a card. Use this ability during your missions phase, but not during. Scrap Alex Mallory, roll a dice, gain 1 to 6 resources. I'm not convinced. Honestly, I am not convinced. And he also adds Morgan Hasek Davian. Tap +1 initiative, and each attacking mech gets +1 attack. Okay, so that's a fanatical leader effect. It's reasonable, but at 4, that's quite expensive. And he's not a pilot, so you can't put him out with Solaris. So it seems a little worse. He also adds the original Victor, Steiner Davian. And again, he's quite expensive at 5, 6T. Same price as some of the others on here. Mech pilot by Victor cannot attack or block alone. Big issue. Each mech in your group gets +2 attack. Very nice. Is he worth a slot? Is the question. It is the question. So, I'm not sure. So what's going on here? 1 Victor Prince Vic, 1 Vic, 1 Kai Allard, 1 Morgan, 1 Alex, and 1 Morgan Hasek Davian. 2 overrun, 2 taking the hit, 1 Forged Mission Order. 2 overrun, 2 taking the hit, and a Forged Mission Order. So his deck list that's been published is not right. I suspect, given he's swapped the pilots out, that he's still playing for Solaris, which would make a lot of sense. A lot of people played for Solaris at that point for those runs. Okie dokie. The Steiner deck, the McMallet job, I did earlier, or in the Mercenaries stream. It was definitely a Mercenaries deck. None of the cards that were in Mechwarrior affected that. However, we do have a Kurita deck. So let's call this 02. I appear to have caps lock on. 02 Kurita, and all of a sudden the Kuritans get a bit of a deck. And please excuse me while my piece of paper refuses to stand up and stay in the right position. Let me use liquid refreshment to reinforce it. Okay, so here's the deck, and obviously Kai goes, Vic goes, Alex, the other Kai, Morgan, Victor, all go straight out. The Night Sky has to go because it's Davian Steiner. The Zeus goes, the Mongoose stays, and the Wolfhound goes. And we play with one additional tactics and one less assembly and one less Solaris. So, I've done that the wrong way. So 11 assembly, 9 tactics, 5 Solaris, 3 Solaris. Okay. And the taking the hits disappear, as do the forged mission orders, and this deck relies on Overrun as its only mission, because with the Solaris contacts in place, it runs Fanatical Fruit Bat, the psycho leader in itself. It doesn't run 1, it doesn't run 2, it runs 6 fanatical leaders. So Solaris puts them out for free. Now, okay, you might say, you know what, I'm saving 2 resources. That's not a great deal. But additionally, it's another deployment. You get your 2 deployments and you get a pilot on top of that. So you're effectively cheating the game slightly with Solaris to put an additional card out, which can give you better board presence. It can give you better momentum. And from that point of view, that's why it's stronger than, you can argue about the stats in the free pilot, but a lot of people miss the fact that it is actually effectively another deployment that turn. It is a card on the table for free. And this deck, being Kurita, is a C3 deck, so it runs 6 Owens and 6 Owens. Have I got 4 of those in there? Have I got the Owens in? Oh, no, wow. I've got way too many Owens. I must have done that twice. So, both Owens at 6 each. It runs the Hitman. What have we got of those? 5 Hitman and 5 Mongoose. And it runs the C3 Blackjack. The Blackjack BJ thing, where is it? The 9? Where is it? It's not the 9. Blackjack 9 C3 variant. Obviously someone hasn't got a clue what the 9 is, or someone's typed it in wrong. It is the Blackjack, the C3 Blackjack. There it is. Nice that it has no buyouts. 173, jump C3, long range. And the idea here is literally just putting more and more and more numbers. So with the Fanatical Leader giving everything +1, C3 giving any unit with C3 +2, that could be +3 across the board. Add another Fanatical Leader in there, +5. It snowballs on that. And the other thing here is that Hitman with ECM gives you durability for your Owenses. They don't die as easy. And the other thing is most of these units are fast. I'm a little surprised at the overrun. You could easily run Risky Combat Jump in there, or one of, even though the Owens does not have jump. This is a missed thing that they bodged when they created Commander's Edition, because it didn't have jump, so they reissued it with jump and called it Revised. And they probably should have just errated it. It would have been so much easier and so much less confusion for everybody. The Blackjack has jump. That's probably the likely target to get picked off, because it's the only slow unit in the deck. And there you go. There is no listed sideboard for this one. Now, did I do... I did the Phelan Lau deck. I did the Phelan Marek deck. What else do we have? We have the St. Ives version. What else have I got? I've got St. Ives, and I've got Rasselhag and Wolfstegroons to go. So we'll save that, and next up we have number 3, and we have St Ives. Right then, so we'll trash a load of the units. They're out for lunch, and we are going to trash most of these as well. And the tactics goes down to 7 tactics. And let's pull this out a bit, because we're going to run with 6 munitions, and we are going to run with how many 8 politics. So the mix is 6 munitions, 8 politics, 7 tactics. Okay, and as was his preference, we run with the assassin, the no buyout 1 damage assassin, and then we have the centurion, the no buyout 2 cost centurion. We are going to keep our curve low with the hunchback, and this is the Counter-Strike version, which is this one, not that one. That alphas for 2 but has an A buyout. This one alphas for 1 but doesn't have a buyout. And there are 5 hunchbacks. We're going to add the Falconhawk with the munitions buyout, 6 of those, and the Gallo Glass, 5 of those. So it's swarmy. It is swarmy when you look at it. 6, 6, 6, 18, 28 units, of which only 5 cost more than 2. So it's chuck 'em out, stack 'em high, sell 'em cheap. For defensive purposes, there are 3 Fog Shrouded Moors, and there are, because it's a great St Ives card, the Mechwarrior Work Stoppage, 5 of those, and one of my favourite missions for a bit of defence, Dropship Intercept. Okay, so let's just have a look at this. The Work Stoppage, the only card in the deck requiring politics. When you activate Work Stoppage, choose an asset. Having that asset in play does not pay the asset costs of cards under construction. So the idea behind this deck running M and P and tactics, so munitions, politics is tactics, is that they are not running assembly and logistics. And therefore you can use this to say, right, having assembly in play does not count, and therefore you have to pay the assembly costs of things. Now if we go back to that Davian Zeus a few minutes ago at 4-3A, paying 4 for it, you're quite happy. 2-7-3 overheat, 2+2. Paying 7 for it is very, very painful. Okay. So the reason that the Fog Shrouded Moors are in here, all mechs deal 1 less damage and get 1 armour, is to stop them hunting the Work Stoppage. Yeah? You could hidden location it if you really want to and prevent that. But the idea here is it stops people hunting the Work Stoppage, and you are slowing your opponent down because they are playing assembly in their decks. And the rest of your stuff here, this doesn't have a buyout, this doesn't have a buyout, this doesn't have a buyout. Well, it has a 2M buyout. M's not used that much. Might struggle a little against Clan. The Hunchback doesn't have a buyout, and the Galaglass at 284 has an M&T buyout. I'm a little surprised that he's not running the Guillotines in there, because they're generic 283s, Guillotines. Guillotine. Oh no, they're Maricks, aren't they? Yeah, they're Maricks. Otherwise, that would have been there. So we are talking about the Grasshopper, which is generic 283 jump, 283 jump. So I'm a little surprised he's not running the Grasshoppers in there instead of the Gala Glass. I suppose the overheat and the jump and the extra +1 long range or punch through works for him. Maybe you need to keep the damage curve up. Would like to say without playing it. And then, as I said, one of my favourite missions, Dropship Intercept. Play only if you are the defending player and do not control any blocking mechs. Deplete all attacking mechs. So if he decides to go for a work stoppage, you can let it through, don't block, play this, everything depletes, and then you can go and shoot all of the mechs that attacked it without getting them to fight back, or they're out of the game for 2 turns. Very, very useful, very, very good mission. Okay, so there's the St. Ives deck. That's saved. Next we have the Rasselhag deck. Where are we? 4. Okie dokie. This is a bit more back to normal. So let's get rid of most of this lot, and we're going to get rid of the munitions. The tactics we are dropping to 6. The politics we are dropping to 7, and we're going to go back to our assemblies, which I can't spell, and there are 8 of those, and additionally there are black market. There are 2 black markets in this deck, so 2 black markets, 876, 2 black markets, still only 23 resources on that. And then we have our mongooses back, our centurions are back, and that's going to be the 9D, and then our Owenses are in. And then we have our blackjack, the C3 version, 6 of those, and finally the C3 Firestarter makes an appearance. There are 5 of those. And then that leaves us with our command package, and one of the strongest cards for Rasselhag is Airstrikes Close to Home, and they are playing 5 Airstrikes Close to Home. They are also playing Mr. Magnusson, looking like he's straight out of a Swedish movie. Red Jack. Oh, I got him. Has he got in there? No, I didn't. And Sharilar. And remember, at this point, Comstar is not a house. Comstar did not exist, so you can put her in here. So how does this play? How does this work? Right. So Rasselhag was scrap a resource card in play, draw 2 cards, use this ability during your deploy phase. Not particularly convinced unless you are searching for something. I suppose it's a bit of deck cycling. I wonder if there's a better choice now, possibly. Red Jack. Oh, I've got 2 Red Jacks. Here's Red Jack. You untap a resource card an opponent controls and gain control of it. Oh dear, you can see the combo, can't you? Use this ability to do it. So you gain control of their card, you tap it and use it as a resource, and then with Harkonnen here, you scrap it. Oh dear. And then you draw 2 cards. It's a nice combo if you get both of them on the table. Obviously, you're reliant on getting 2 cards out of 60 in your hand. Sharilar, on the other hand, just gives your opponent -1 initiative and stops them playing mission cards, because this deck doesn't run any. So it gives you a little bit of advantage in that phase. And then the main thing here is protecting your airstrikes close to home, and the idea here is that you get 5 counters on here and deplete what is in your opponent's hand. So scrap airstrikes. When it's revealed, look at opponent's hand, choose one card for each construction counter above the cost of airstrikes. Opponent scraps those cards. So if you can get 5 counters on here, generally you can completely obliterate their hand. As you've seen in the meta, there's nothing like hidden reserves. There's no card draw if you're looking for things like Kai, the original Kai, where you can potentially draw a card and an mission. That doesn't happen effectively, or is not that effective. And then basically everything else is C3 with a bit of value. So this is one of those hybrid decks where you've got C3 with Owens, Firestarter and Blackjack in there, mixed in with Centurion and Mongooses. And for those people that are saying, you know, oh, Shyster, Tom Smith was the first person to play a hybrid C3 deck, I'm sorry, no, he wasn't. That was the meta where he was, and he played it well, and he knew how to play it. It has a lot of weaknesses, and I think when he won the Worlds, to be fair to him, he had a good bit of luck, which you need, and a decent missions package that gave him a lot of flexibility, and that certainly worked for him. I'm not so sure on another day he would have repeated that success. But there you go. There's a Rasselhag deck. Basically, you deplete your opponent's hand, and then with your unique combo, you steal their resource and use it to draw a card yourself. And then finally, in the next section of the meta, we have Wolf's Dragoons. And the thing with the Wolf's Dragoons is, at this point, they were still a house. Wizards hadn't got around to getting their together, and they were still a house. And this is a bit of a different one. So let me get rid of all the politics and all of the tactics. We will get rid of most of the rest of this as well. So we have 9 assemblies, and on the supports we also have 9 logistics. I'm going to pick the pink one because it stands out from my brain. And then we also have, and this is an interesting choice, outreach mercenary training. 6 of them. Oops, I've put 7 in. So that gives you P and T. So this is a 4 asset deck effectively. Alright, so what goes in here? Well, scarily enough, 6 thorns. 6, no damage, well, 1 damage, 0, 4, 1 thorns. Okie dokie. Then we have the flea. And surprisingly enough, we'll have 6 of those. We will additionally have Hornet, Wolf's Dragoon medium, 6 of those, and the 5V spider over the 7M spider. And you say, where the hell is this going? Well, it's going for the abuse. 6 Sandhurst, 6 hidden reserves. There you go. So you can see now, oh, out of mercenaries, the first Sandhurst deck appeared. And yes, it is here. It was around before Terry Borer and Shu Yik-Ao put it into Worlds. That wasn't the first Sandhurst deck. People didn't understand how potent this thing is and how much of an abusive card Sandhurst Royal Military Academy is. So, how does this work and why is it the way it is? 9 assembly, 9 logistics are there to support the units. Logistics on the flea, logistics on the hornet, logistics and assembly on the spider, and logistics and assembly on the thorn. So there are some elements there. I might be a little surprised that he's not running the 1-cost assassin. the 131 jumper with no buyout instead of maybe this, but the reason is free deployment. Free deployment. Free deployment. Free deployment. So any unit in your hand you can put on the table, and providing you can pay the cost of it, it doesn't count as one of your deployments. So here's the start of the explosive deck, where free deploy, free deploy, free deploy, out they all come. You know what I mean? Let's face it, turn one could be something as simple as deploy Hornet revealed, put a logistics down, tap it, Hornet comes out. Deploy Fleet revealed, put down a logistics, tap it, Fleet comes out. So you're looking at 2 damage there, you're looking at 1 damage there. You're going to get a plink on turn 2. Of course, obviously, if you've got an assembly, you can go the same route with the spider, and you can go the same route with the thorn. So these just get thrown out like left, right, and centre for peanuts. Then the next question is, what else is going on here? Well, you are using Sandhurst Royal Military Academy to buff these units. Now, it's 4 cost, so that's why there are 9 assembly and 9 logistics in the deck. Do you need 9 outreach? No, you don't. You could get away with 6 politics without any problems, or even a combination thereof. You could even drop an assembly. Paying 1 for this doesn't help, because this deck doesn't run any form of tactics apart from this card. It doesn't have initiative. However, he's included it because as an attacker he has an initiative, and therefore he knows when to play Sandhurst. What people kind of got into later was the option where they didn't need the tactics, so the play evolved, and therefore the meta changed accordingly. So let's just look at Sandhurst. This card is bonkers. It is absolutely insane. Okay. Choose one of your unpiloted mechs. That mech gets either +2 attack or +2 armor. Your choice. If that mech is scrapped during this mission, scrap Sandhurst military. Otherwise, untap this card at the end of the mission. So this is a +2 armor or +2 attack bonus that you can tap and then untap, providing your unit doesn't die. Well, if you've got 3 of these on the table, even with this little thorn here, let's just take this thorn. So it's a 041. So I can, with 3 of these on the table, I just tap them and give it all +2 armor. So it has 6 armor. It's a 641. Now, as a blocker, you've now got to kill that. And it's got 6 armor. It's just going to bounce off the armor. And the whole notion of this guy with a trumpet and a flag giving that is just gross. Right, okay. I know I've often said, do not listen to what happens on the tabletop. Do not listen to real world physics when it comes to card games, because it's a simulation. It doesn't apply. It's kind of trying to do the best thing. But I will say this. Getting support from something like this is fine. I live in the UK. There is one Sandhurst Royal Military Academy in the UK. So why this card isn't unique, I don't know. I think if it was unique, it wouldn't be played, and that wouldn't be part of the meta, and that's probably bad. You know, I'm not a great fan of it. I see where, because if it was +2 attack, it would be weakened. And I'm not sure if it would be playable, but it might be playable. If it was +2 armor, if it was a die roll, that would be well funny. But as it is where you get to choose, you can, if you defend, you just buff the crap out of your units so that it doesn't die. And then you nullify the attack. You know, giving something +6 armor in this game is ridiculous. There are no other cards that get anywhere close to that. Strength of the Bear is probably the one that allows you to double what you've got. And the only time you might try and put that on is something like a Man of War Prime or something or other. So just going from 0 to +6 armor is just downright ridiculous. So when you don't kill the mech, and then the mech comes back on its turn, attacks you, and it's a 0-4-1, and all of a sudden you give it +6 attack, and it kills your only logistics or assembly, you probably feel pretty pissed off. And I know I would. The fact that it can do that is just so infuriating. In a card, but here is its origins. It was a Wolf's Dragoons deck, okie dokie, and obviously hidden reserves there is to refresh your hand, and the idea is you drop every unit and a resource. You could on a good turn, load entire deck to you, draw. Well, sorry, I will mulligan. Shuffle. Draw. Oh dear. Deploy, reveal. Player logistics, tap it. Out comes the flea. Draw a card. Play an assembly. Play another logistics. Those two are made. Draw a card. Play a hidden reserves for 1. Draw 3. And we'll deploy the flea revealed, and we'll probably put the outreach down, because the next turn we're just going to go and play a Sandhurst and attack with this, give it +2, this untaps, attack with that, give it +2, Sandhurst untaps, attack with this, Sandhurst untaps for another 2, and +2, so that's 3, 6, 9, 12. Maybe there's an overheat in there as well. There's an overheat on the flea. I can get another point out of it. In fact, I'll get 2 points out of it. I can attack for 14 that turn, just upping my Sandhursts. I'll play another logistics. Draw. Spider for free. Hidden reserves 1, 2, 3. Hidden reserves again 1, 2, 3. I'm not drawing very many Sandhursts, so I'll be. And then next turn, and of course I will have attacked for another 14 this turn if you haven't got a blocker. And then next turn I will go Spider for free, Thorn for free, tap 4 and put another Sandhurst out. And then with 2 Sandhursts out, this now gets +4, and this gets +4, and this gets +4, and this gets +4. And then this bunch of spiders come out, and all of a sudden I potentially have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 units on the board, which are either 4/3/1s, 4 armor, 3 structure, 1 damage, defending, or attacking. They're 0/3/5s, and I've got 8 of them. I have 40 damage on the table, which just shows how absolutely bonkers Sandhurst Royal Military Academy is. Oh, I've put a resource out instead of a Sandhurst. Yeah. So how many turns is that? 5, 6, 7, maybe. Game was over previous turn. I was just drawing it and showing you. I've got 38 cards in my stockpile, so I've drawn 22. So that's 7 draws, 7 turns, and it was dead last turn on the turn before. So it is an absolutely crazy deck in that meta. So, anyway, that's, I think, between Mercenaries and Mechwarrior. Between Mercenaries and Mechwarrior, we have covered a deck for every faction, house, or clan out there. Some of these got tweaked because they were kind of Mercenaries decks, and then they got upgraded into Mechwarrior decks, etc., etc. And hopefully now you can start and see the origins. I mean, the thing that is missing from this deck, which is absolutely frightening, is treachery. Treachery in this deck is just unbelievably good. Absolutely unbelievably good. Played at the right moment is game over. It really is. Because it taps you out completely. Provided everything survives, then it's game over. You might have 1, maybe 2 blockers if you're lucky. treachery in this deck is just unbelievably good. And you see it in, excuse me, Terry Borer and Yick's deck in Worlds 6 months later as people experiment with this. And obviously this gets buffed a huge amount with all the vehicles in Arsenal. And on top of that, it actually gets buffed by, or the fact that Wolf's Dragoons is no longer a house in Commander's Edition doesn't make any difference, because all of these free deploy units in here just get completely superseded with Arsenal units, apart from maybe the Spider, which gets a revised version. There's nothing stopping you running the Assassin in this deck. There is nothing stopping you running the 2-cost Night Sky in this deck. In fact, this is crazy. Putting the 2-cost Night Sky in this deck at 2-cost, moderate, 1/7/2, overheat 1, a jump, hand-to-hand 1, hatchet 1, slows it down. It slows it down. The only reason you might put that in there is you want a slightly more durable blocker. But when you can give something +6 armour, why do I care? So there you go. That is a load of decks that depict where the Mechwarrior meta was. Next up, we have the total design failure and game chaos that is Arsenal. Arsenal brought some great things, but it wasn't well done, and it just shows a complete lack of play testing and thought, and that the designers were on a different plane of existence to the players. And we'll even see some of that, because we've got the R&D challenge coming up as well, where Wizards of the Coast designers play against real championship quality players and get absolutely obliterated. But that's for another day, another time, and another dollar. Okay. But up to there, that's the end of me for today. As I've often said, I'm done sticker forking me. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. If you like it, hit the like button, subscribe, whatever. I'm not here for subscriptions and money, and I don't use YouTube as a living. But if you want to subscribe so you get a little update to say, ha, Silly Wiz has come up with some more meta rubbish, please do so. And the other thing I want to ask you to do is, it's a big bad world out there, so look after yourselves and take care. And I'll see you another day for another Battletech stream.